Hello everybody, MechaZodeX here, back at it again to give you another very exciting video, and for today, I'm going to be having my finale review, my double-in-one anime review for ReZero Season 2, and that's going to be over episode 24 called Choose Me, and episode 25 called Offbeat Steps Under the Moonlight. And if you hadn't already done so, you can go ahead and click that card in the corner and check out my episode 23 review before we dive up into this big, massive, long review for 24 and 25. But man, oh man, this series definitely went out on a huge bang right here though. Love the character arcs that been showcased off within 24, and then 25 was just sort of kind of like the wrapping up, just sort of kind of tying up pretty much almost all the loose ends. They did leave a few of them on loose for what could potentially be a season 3 on in the future. Don't know when that could possibly be though, but they always have to somewhat sort of kind of set themselves up for anything else that they will do in the future though. But a lot of good stuff was shown and a whole lot of stuff for me to go over and talk about though. So you know what, we might as well go ahead and jump up in it though. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive straight up into this double-in-one review for ReZero Season 2, starting with episode 24.
This is the fat I brought us here, what's running on shine. But if I could right my wrongs and save you from the bed, it's not enough. It's not enough for me to break the rule of this world. I was never gonna leave you, never wanna lose you, but make it in the end. No making that for real. I won't trust someone else's life. I know who I am.
Choose me. Those are the words Subaru says to Beatrice as he holds out his hand to her in the midst of a mansion in flames. Before anything can even be said about the story, the moment is a fantastic set piece on its own. The mansion has been the site of many Subaru's battles, but it's also the source of its fondest memories. For Beatrice, it's a prison she locked herself into, following her last promise to Ekidena. It's a location filled with tension and conflicting emotions of heartfelt bonds, but also agonizing loneliness. And at last, it has all come to an irreversible head. Every last door in the mansion burns down, forcing Beatrice to at last make a choice for herself. The flames at the mansion are contrasted with cold snow in the sanctuary, where it turns out that Roswell managed to cast his spell by preparing it even before the battle with Raymond Puck. This side of the episode wasn't quite as visually striking, partly because the Great Rabbit has to be portrayed with CG animation, but the two opposing sides of the coin make for a memorable setting for the climax of the story, both physically and metamorphically. The two scenes could not have been more apart. Only at the very end do the two sides cross over when Beatrice teleports herself and Subaru to the now freed sanctuary. It's such a cool way of using the setting to tell a story. But let's backtrack a little bit for a moment when Subaru says, "Choose me." Throughout this season, he and Beatrice had been talking, past each other. They clearly care about each other, but Beatrice is too hesitant to come out of her shell. From her perspective, it makes sense. She has lived a very long time, and in her tragic friendship with Ryuzu, she has seen how fleeting the bonds between mortals can be. The only thing she can do is cling to her promise to Ekidena, even if she knows deep down that there is no person who will come for her at the end. Subaru firmly rejects that he is that person because that's his way of saying that he's doing all of this for Beatrice entirely on his own will. He's not here to fulfill some kind of prophecy, he just wants to be Beatrice's friend. Even without a single return by death in this episode, the consistent theme of this series of repeating one's failures over and over again to accomplish a seemingly futile goal asserts itself. Again and again, Subaru is rebuffed, but he doesn't give up, even when everything burns down around him, signaling a point of no return. Honestly, by this point, he should have been, suffocated by the smoke alone. But let's forget about that reality for just a moment and enjoy the vibe of the scene. The moment when he reaches out his burnt hand to Beatrice is symbolic of how, even after a searing rejection, he'll continue to let himself be vulnerable. Looking back, it's interesting that this was the moment that this arc was culminating to. In the end, it's a story about smashing down barriers people put up in their hearts, between Emilia regaining her lost memories, Puck renouncing his contract with Emilia, Garfield reconciling with Frederica, Rand burning Roswell's Tome of Wisdom. The characters in this climax have all firmly rejected the barriers preventing true communication in the wake of their changed world and relationships. What is going to happen to them next? I'm looking forward to seeing what the new Emilia Kemp looks like even after this dust has settled. And that's basically all I have to say within my episode 24 review over ReZero Season 2. So quite a bit of stuff went down with this episode. And I also like that little moment. It was in the first half of the episode where Emilia was like confronting Roswell, and it's like why in the world you did all this stuff? Why are you acting like this thing? Why are you acting like this now? You shouldn't have never give up. You saw the way how Ram treats you, all of that stuff. I mean, it was kind of nice to actually see a confident Emilia for a change. Like, Emilia definitely broken out of her shell. And then also the second half, the big emphasis was that relationship between Subaru and Beatrice, with Subaru finally, trying to make a bond with Beatrice. And, they both cared about each other, as I said earlier though, but finally they kind of locked it up almost within the new contract. And, these two are going to be working hand in hand, moving from this point forward within the series though. So I really did love that moment as well though. But that's basically all I have to say about episode 24. But y'all gotta let me know down in the comment section down below what all did you think about this episode, and how did it make you feel at the very end though. But that about does it for this though. But make sure to stay tuned, as I'm about to get ready to dive into my second part of my double header review over ReZero Season 2 with episode 25.
私は諦めたりしない。
そんな無理しなくても大丈夫だよ、エミリアタン。あとは任せて下がってていいぜ。初陣補正があるからね。おお、任された。今だエミリア、ラインをなぞれ。
すごく上手。さすがすぎる。もう逃がしてあげないから。
And that's a wrap, folks. After all of these hard-fought battles, our characters finally get their happy ending, at least for now. After 25 extended long episodes of suffering and drama, it has surely been satisfying to see these kids smile. There were some stumbles along the way to get there though. The episode opened by finishing off the battle against the Great Rabbit in a rather unique fashion. It was also the weakest part of the episode in terms of the animation and visual direction. Apart from the establishing scene in Core 1, the anime has struggled to convey the savageness and mindless ferocity of the Great Rabbit. They politely sit in a field waiting for characters to finish greeting each other, and are not shown having much impact at all on the environment. It's one thing for them, to be creatures that move only on instinct, and quite another for them to arrange themselves in a perfect square to get them taken out within seconds. It was also a bit surprising, but not the epic conclusion I thought or imagined for the demise of the Great Rabbit. I mean, this Great Rabbit was a creature that basically tore Subaru down to smithereens, ripping his flesh off of his bones like ain't nobody's business. Like, that scene still sticks in the back of my mind to this day. And I'm like, gosh, I was like, that thing was just so ferocious, but it kind of went down somewhat, sort of kind of easily within this episode. I don't know if it was just trying to fit it in with all the screen time and whatnot though, but it's not so much the epic kind of fight that I was sort of kind of expecting with the Great Rabbit as I did whenever it all played out though. But that's just kind of like one little negative thing I might have had with this episode, but the rest of it was honestly pretty good. Now from this point moving forward, the rest of the episode was an improvement. Fortunately, as it focused more on the resolving the character dramas rather than the action. I especially like how Roswell's subplot got wrapped up. Every character in the Emilia camp got their chance to punch him in the face, even Otto and Petra, and they all had their own conflicting ideas about whether he should remain a part of their alliance. Roswell, for his part, reveals that although he is physically incapable of betraying Subaru now that he has lost, he hasn't given up on reuniting with Ekidena. Even so, he has come to dimly realize that people like Beatrice and Ram have cared about him all along. His change in attitude is reflected in how he now speaks without the overly, affected speech patterns anymore. After 400 years, it's still possible in the end for people to change bit by bit, even if their entire worldview doesn't change completely. But the highlight of this episode was Subaru and Emilia's blossoming relationship. And boy, was that a joy to see. Subaru's love for Emilia has always been a motivating factor for him, but I never thought that the romance as ReZero's strongest point. It felt like, it was inevitable that Emilia would continue to miss the point of Subaru's feelings, either, due to the over-the-top fawning, her innocence, her low esteem, or all of the above, to be honest. But going through all of those trials, however, has helped Emilia get in touch with not just her past, but with emotions she feels in general, the good as well as the bad. She still doesn't quite understand love and relationships, and that's evident in how she misunderstands, that a kiss leads to pregnancy. Like a kiss that leads to pregnancy. Like, what the actual heck, Emilia? Like, bro, it was at this moment where I actually took off my headphones, laid them down, and walked halfway across the room. I was like, okay. I was like, man, this can't be one of those kind of isekai animes, right? Like. If a kiss led to pregnancy, you imagine how many babies would have been up in this world. It would have been way too many. I was like, oh goodness. But that was just a really, funny little moment, but just shows how innocent she really is. And Puck over here, this snowballing things. I mean, Puck is really trying to protect this girl from all things. Like, oh my gosh. But despite all of this, she's still willing to talk with Subaru every day in order to learn. Those two still have a long way to go, but they're facing each other squarely instead of looking in different directions. The episode caps off with Subaru getting knighted. After he arrogantly declared himself Emilia's knight back in season 1, it's wonderful to see his character arc finally come full circle. Even if his character development wasn't the primary focus of season 2, it was pivotal in forming him into the kind of person who truly deserves the title of Emilia's knight. In this season, he fully let go of his hero complex instead of bearing all the pain by himself in order to save others. He learned to lean on others, and acknowledge that they want to save him too. He renounced Return by Death and picked up new abilities, like his own twist on the Unseen Hands and his contract with Beatrice. He's no longer the weak and powerless boy he was at the start, whose only role was to die again and again and again. It's a nice place to end ReZero's anime for now, even if it does mean little progress to the overarching Royal Selection and Witch Cult plots. Looking back, this arc had its ups and its downs, and it had too many subplots for its own good and a tendency to go off track, but it managed to bring its story back to Subaru and Emilia in the end. Just as the first season ended with the two of them together, the second season affirms the emotional core that beats at the heart of this fantasy. Boy meets girl. Epic. Now, just like then, that's all this story is about. And that's basically all I have to say for this ReZero episode 25 review. Overall, I have got to say this was a pretty solid episode in terms of just wrapping everything up. I mean, at the very beginning of the episode, we had to fight off the Great Rabbit and wrap that up. But after that, it's pretty good going through the forgiveness arc of them trying to forgive Roswell and seeing, how, at least for him trying to make some apologies for everything that he's been the root of all of this for a whole entire season 2 with the attack on the mansion, as well as, everything that sort of kind of happened within the sanctuary. So it's nice to be able to make their forgivenesses right there. Even though Roswell, I don't know if you're going to get a slide off with me though, but I'm going to keep my eye out on you. I mean, it was even crazy, the matter of fact, that even that deal that he made at the beginning of this second part of the season 2, where they had that little deal how like Subaru's like, hey, you know what, I can beat you all in one go. if Subaru somehow managed to fail, that big old crest that was on Roswell's chest would literally been on Subaru's, and that's kind of crazy to kind of think about it. I don't even know Return by Death would have fixed and take that off of him, though. I mean, who's to say on that, though? But thank goodness Subaru managed to win at the very end, though, and then kind of seeing those nice little emotional moments and sweet moments where at the core of it all, this goes back to Subaru and Emilia. Both of these two characters grown tremendously in this season 2, and I love the fact how, honestly, Subaru did not have to rely on Return by Death for this whole second part of this season 2. It was really kind of nice or unique and a little bit, refreshing, instead of him constantly dying and us having to plug, 2 and 2 together in order to figure out all the different things with the different parallel timelines and all that stuff, though. But y'all gotta let me know down in the comment section down below, what all do you think about this episode 25 as, as a whole, though. But that about does it in terms of my overall review for ReZero Season 2, and I hope all of y'all had a blast just listening to all the thoughts I had to say, or just, y'all just going through and watching the season for yourselves, though. So I just want to take the time out to appreciate everybody that's been here, sitting down and watching any of my reviews for ReZero Season 2 for the first part of the anime, as well as the second part that we just recently wrapped up, though. It's been a fun little blast, and I always love doing these anime reviews each and every week, though some of these episode reviews happen to come out a little bit later than what I originally planned to. I still managed to get the content out and deliver it at the very end, though. But that about does it in terms of my last finale review for ReZero Season 2. So as always, if you happen to like this double-in-one review, make sure to go ahead and hit that like button, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and that bell to stay up to date on all things anime that I feel like discussing for anything in the future. Whenever we get a new anime announced that I feel like I want to go through and review. So remember, y'all, until whatever video I make next, see y'all.